Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Parallax Abstraction, and welcome to Retro Flashforward, showcasing gaming's roots in the current generation. Yeah, 2 Retro Flashforwards in a row. I'm as surprised as anybody. But I really wanted to talk about this while it was fresh because, well, I think it's pretty awesome in its own way. But it's got some challenges too, which we're going to get into. So, kind of out of the blue, at a recent Nintendo Direct event, Nintendo came out and said, hey, we got this cool little eShop thing for the Wii U called NES Remix, and oh, by the way, you can go buy it right now for $15. So, along with most other people, I was like, whoa, seriously? I gotta check this thing out. And, well, that's what we're here to talk about today. Yes, indeed, we are playing NES Remix on the Wii U. So, I've actually put a few hours into this, mostly because in order to unlock all of the different remixes or mini-games that this has available to you, you actually have to play it for a while because they are not all unlocked from the beginning. You actually only get a small selection of titles off the start. So I actually don't have everything unlocked, but I've got a good selection here, so we're going to show you this stuff. So what is NES Remix? Well, it's a very interesting thing. It's basically Rom Hacks the video game. What Nintendo did is they took a whole pile of older NES titles which coincidentally are all available right now on the Wii U eShop for for way too much money, but I've ranted about that before. What they did is they took them all and set them up with specialized challenges that are often based on victory conditions that did not exist in these games in their original form. So each game has a series of stages you can go through. Some have more than others. And there are a total of 16 different games to play in this. So there are levels from Balloon Fight, Baseball, Clu Clu Land, Donkey Kong Jr., Donkey Kong 3, Excite Bike, Golf, Ice Climber, Mario Brothers, Pinball, Super Mario Brothers, Tennis, The Legend of Zelda, Urban Champion, and Wrecking Crew. Yes. So I've got a decent number of these unlocked, as you can see already. So I'll just quickly scroll through the list here. So I don't have them all, as you can see, but it does take a while to get through them all because I put several hours into this game so far, and I definitely don't have them all. In addition to that, you have multiple tiers of just remixes. These are called remix levels, and what these are is they're similar in that they have their own sets of challenges, but these have a little bit of a modern graphical twist to them, and they introduce additional challenge elements that were simply not possible in the original NES game. So, for example, one of these is an Excite Bike level where you're racing at night. There was no such thing as a night race in Excite Bike, at least not in the way it's portrayed here. So it's kind of an interesting twist they took on this. And, well, the way you do this is I'm just going to show you. So, we're going to start at the beginning of some of these, just so I can give you an idea of how the difficulty curve ramps up. So this is the Excite Bike tier, which I have beaten completely. As I said, there's a different number of challenges for different games. So as you can see, Donkey Kong Jr. has 7, Mario Brothers has 10, Pinball has 6, Excite Bike has 10, all of which I've beaten. So every game has a little video here that just gives you a basic idea of the game controls. Kind of cool if you've never played this stuff before. Very, very simple. Just a little walkthrough. Not much to say about it, really. And then the challenges begin. So here's the first one. This is a real easy one. Hold A to accelerate and reach the finish line. Do-do-do-do. Not much to that one, right? So, this is the way this stuff works. So what you can do in this game is you can... Some of the challenges are just a single thing where it gives you an objective and it says complete this and you're done. But some of the challenges, like this one for example, are multi-tiered. So you'll have a series of objectives to complete, and you have basically lives in this, which is lives are considered reattempts. So you have 3 lives, and if you fail one of the challenges that you're given, you will restart from that challenge. If you run out of lives, you get a chance to continue, and you can continue from the challenge you were on, but here's how you're graded for all the challenges. So it's based on stars, and the stars are predominantly based on your clear time, so how quickly you do it. If you have to use a continue, you automatically get 1 star regardless of how quickly you do it. So that's sort of your incentive. So there's two different types of unlocks in this game, as you can see. So the stars, which you earn by completing the challenges in good time, you can see in the upper left there what those do. They basically allow you to unlock other levels in the remixes and to unlock other games to do challenges in. The stars so far I have found not to be terribly difficult. I find you can kind of get what would otherwise be not so great a time, and it will still give you 3 stars. But the difficulty curve's weird, and we'll go into that. The other unlock that you can see in the upper right there are points that you simply get to unlock stamps. This is your potential stamp collection here. And what these stamps are for, other Nintendo games on the Wii U have done this, they're for Miiverse posts. So if you make Miiverse posts from this game, you can use those stamps to add into your drawings. I'm not a big guy who posts drawings on the Miiverse, but as usual, there are some crazy talented artists out there who are using these to improve their otherwise already incredible Miiverse drawings. So I think that's kind of cool, and it's a neat little incentive. So the basic concepts of this are simple, but your goal, obviously, is to try to get the best time possible and to beat that time further. So that was an Excite Bike level. The challenges as you go along get harder. Now this is where things get a little bit strange. I find the difficulty curve in this game to be very, very strange. Some of these challenges are not particularly hard, like nothing in the Excite Bike tier is really that difficult. But other games, I found some of the challenges even early on to be devilishly difficult. So here's level... Let's check out level 9 of Super Mario Bros., which I haven't played yet. So this is just get 10 1-ups in a row by chaining your score, which is just principally about, and I blew it. And you see the way you do this is just by timing your jumps correctly. So you keep doing that. If you screw up the timing, you'll lose it. And I did it again. And you see it's 10 1-ups in a row, right? So if you lose one, you got to start all over. So things like this, I think, are kind of cool because it's using the existing game mechanics, but it's doing it in a way. Now you see there, I blew that pretty good, and I not only scored 3 stars, I scored 3 stars plus the glow effect. I don't think that actually means anything in terms of, I don't think you get any extra rewards for the glow effect. That's just saying, wow, you did exceptionally well. That's like an S+ ranking, if you will. So you see here I'm getting a bunch more stamp points, partially for clearing it, partially because it's my first time through it. Now, the difficulty curve in this, I might say, is a bit frustrating, except it's also kind of neat because it's based on the difficulty of the game themselves. So for example, so this one here's a little interesting. See, I blew that one. So this is Legend of Zelda, and it wants me to defeat enemies without taking any damage. Alright. I gotta wait for this dude to come around here. Now, what's cool about some of these challenges, though, is, for example, the ones that I've been having a lot of difficulty with are in games like the original Mario Brothers, for example. And the reason for that is, frankly, the original Mario Brothers didn't play all that good. The controls are pretty terrible. The movement is really, really slow and really unresponsive. And as a result of that, ooh, take him out with bombs. See, now that's clever. And... oh, you sneaky buggers. There we go. Gotcha. And in Mario Brothers, the challenges are actually a fair bit more difficult in that game simply because that game doesn't control very well. And that's kind of cool and kind of authentic, but also kind of frustrating in its way. So you're going to see here I unlocked a new stamp. That's also kind of frustrating in its way because it's not a smooth progression and a smooth difficulty progression, which I think some people will probably find frustrating. So there's that element to it. So I'm not going to show you every one of these games because this will take a little while, but you sort of get the idea here. I'll show you another one. I thought Pinball was a rather interesting one, but actually the original Pinball on the NES was pretty neat in terms of the number of features it had. Get through the 1,000 point lane in the upper section. All right, let's try that. I actually liked Pinball on the NES quite a bit. That one's actually really tricky. Getting through the 1,000 point section on this game, I remember being, yeah, quite devilish, as you can see. So stuff like this is interesting. Like, this is actually pretty tough and might require a lot of reattempts. Basically requires that you use the plunger in a very, very specific fashion, which I think is kind of cool. And I like the fact that they integrated some of these other games. Like, apparently some of the challenges in games like golf are really tricky. Like, golf, one of the challenges is apparently to get a hole-in-one, which I never played a lot of NES golf, so veterans may know if that was particularly difficult or not. I don't know if it was or not. And this is sort of the meat and potatoes of the base game. Now, obviously, what I haven't shown you yet is the actual remix sections. So we'll go into that in just a minute. The reason I'm playing a little bit more here is I want to unlock one more star will unlock another, potentially another remix game. So here's one, for example. Defeat all the enemies. Sounds easy enough, right? I've actually done a Retro Flashback on Balloon Fight before. It sounds easy enough until you see how many friggin' enemies there are. This right here would be considered by many to be fairly advanced level balloon fight play. And as you can see, I didn't pull it off there because there's a lot of enemies and they are stacked in a really weird way. So this is actually remarkably tricky if you haven't played a lot of Balloon Fight. Thankfully I have. Yeah! And yet I'm still not doing so hot at it. Oh, hey, here we go. Here we go. Okay. I got you. I got you. So there is an interesting difficulty curve in this, but you're going to find yourself drawn towards specific games that you have a preference for, either in the play style or because you just find the challenges a little more palatable. And that's kind of a problem in the sense that this game doesn't. Yeah, you see, I only got 2 stars on that one. But I unlocked a new stage in Remix 2. Actually, 3 stages in Remix 2. Cool. And that's the problem, is ultimately you do, if you want to unlock everything, you have to beat every challenge in every game, at least as far as I know. So that's going to be tricky, because if there are certain games you really don't care for, eventually the game, this game is going to force you to go through it. And that could be a bit of a slog. So here are the different remixes, and this is really the meat and potatoes of it. This is what you're playing for. So as you can see, there's 25 stages in each of, at least in the first one, and in the and in the second one too. I actually don't know if there's a third remix or not, but as you can see, there's quite a bit of this, and these challenges start out pretty easy, but they get pretty devilish. So here's, for example, the Excite Bike one I was telling you about. Now I said it's at night. Here's what I mean by that. Check this out. This isn't the Excite Bike one. This is a Donkey Kong one, but it's the same idea. So it's saying get to the top, but it's really mixing stuff up in a crazy way because you've got sort of a Dark Soulsian light sphere around you here. Obviously, this is not the way Donkey Kong was meant to be played, and I think this is cool because what this game does is it gives you challenges based both around the original way that the games were made to be played, but also in this remix mode, you get this crazy thing where it goes, hey, here are the original games with a bunch of additional layers of challenge thrown in that not only did they not have, but that was impossible to do on them back in the day. And I think that's kind of neat. Here's what I was talking about. Complete a lap in the dark. What? Now, I'm going to tell you, for someone like me, this is not particularly difficult because, well, I played a lot of Excite Bike back in the day. I know this game pretty much in and out. But a lot of people obviously didn't, and this game, I think, is trying to target both retro fans like myself, but also people who perhaps didn't have the exposure to these older titles that people like me did. And to them, this might actually be really difficult. You know, I practically memorized some of the early Excite Bike levels, so this isn't as difficult for me as it might be for some others. But as you can see as well, the clear time requirements to get all the stars in these I find to be a little bit tougher. I thought I did reasonably well on that. If this was one of the regular challenge stages, I probably would have done fine. But in this case, I only got 2 stars, even though I scored a pretty decent time. So this is where things get mixed up a little bit. And I'll tell you, some of these challenges, some of them have been easy, some of them have been brutal. Some of them I have not managed to get through even on multiple attempts. And again, the curve is really weird. Some of these are really, really simple. Some of these I found to be really, really difficult. So you start off with only a handful of games unlocked and this first remix tier. As you earn more stars, you will unlock more remix stages. I've unlocked all of this one. Once you've started to do that, you will unlock Remix 2, which is more challenges that are trickier. So I beat that one. Let's take a look at a new one here. So this is obviously a level from Super Mario Brothers. Get to the goal pole before time runs out. Okay, this is interesting. So obviously it started me off. I'm big and I'm invincible, at least to start. And I fell down a hole. Now it says time runs out, and you'll notice that the game's normal timer is in here. But the actual time that I'm being graded on is that one on the right. So I actually only have 40 seconds with which to get through this entire level. I've never done this, so this might actually be tricky, especially with these multi-layered jumps here. But this is the kind of thing that you would normally have seen from a ROM hack in an emulator. Oh my god. So you see what I'm talking about here. Some of these just get outright devilish. And I think this is really cool because NES Remix is essentially ROM Hack, the video game, and it's Nintendo embracing something that fans have been doing for years, and that in the past they kind of looked down on and said, hey, you know, you shouldn't be doing that to our intellectual property, rah. And I think it's really neat. Now, here is where the rub comes in. This game is $15. Now, there is actually a fair amount of content in here. I mean, it's some older NES games, and yeah, they're all modified. Like, none of the actual games are in here. Like, this game will happily link you to the eShop so that you can pay a frankly grossly inflated price in order to buy the originals yourself, but you can't play the originals in here. You can only play the challenges that they give you, and that's kind of a bummer. In addition to that, yeah, there's a lot of challenges in here, and the remixes are cool, especially as you saw in that Mario level, and you'll see here, these all have a little bit of extra graphical flair on them, some extra shaders and stuff like that. They're still the original graphical style, but at the same time, you know, they have a little bit of extra look to them. And as you can see here, this game's a little more interesting because it's not just defeat all the enemies, it's protect this AI player too, who is just going to run around like an idiot and not contribute in any way. Basically, if you had like your baby brother playing the game with you because your mom made you. Which is a scenario I'm sure many of us probably experienced. Thankfully not me, I was an only child. Suckers. But you get the idea here, and I like the fact that there's a little more polish. But this game has been taking some stick in reviews for basically saying that it was totally unnecessary, and why did Nintendo do this, and it's a total waste, and it's just an upsell for the eShop, and blah, blah, blah. I mean, as usual, reviewers have been hating on Nintendo this year because it's in style. But I have to admit, the value proposition for this game is not so good. $15 for 16 old NES titles that are not complete, that are just challenge modes, and a few increasingly difficult graphical upgrades is a bit much. I think this is cool. I like that. I'll pretend that didn't happen. I like this game a lot. I think it's really cool, and I didn't actually mind paying $15 for it, but I'm a retro fanatic. You know, I love this stuff. Oh my god. Okay, let's just try that again, shall we? But I really like this stuff. I really like these old games, and the idea of playing ROM hacks for score and bragging rights and challenge elements to get to another stage. Oh god, it changed into a Game Boy game. I think is really cool. Like, I really see the value and fun in playing this in this way it's presented. But I could see a lot of people just kind of going, I don't really care. And that's kind of the thing. I respect Nintendo for doing this because this game is weird and different and cool. I also think they've created something very, very niche. I think this is really only built to appeal to retro fanatics like myself. I think if you were a more mainstream consumer, you probably wouldn't find this very interesting, and you might find it kind of a rip-off if you paid $15 for it. And I can understand that. I wouldn't necessarily really blame you for thinking that way. But I think it's really cool, and I really like the fact that Nintendo is tried to do something different. You know what this almost feels like? This almost feels like... Oh, wow, the screen's going blurry. I'm learning a lot of this stuff for the first time, so you're seeing all the neat effects that they're putting on some of these challenges. This is what I think is neat. But I like the fact that Nintendo is trying to think outside the box a little bit. This almost feels like something that would have come out of a game jam. Like, I don't know if Nintendo has internal game jams. I'm going to guess they probably don't. But I think it's really... This feels like something where they were kind of went, hey, you know what? Take a bunch of our old games, a bunch of our old IP, and do something weird and different with them. And this is what their programmers came up with. Or maybe it was some little spare time project where they showed it to Iwata-san and he just went, hey, this is kind of neat. Let's turn this into a thing and put it out on the Wii U. And I respect that a lot. And I think this is really cool fan service. I think it's a nod to the people who remember these games fondly and really want to do something different with them. But I also think it's really expensive. I think much like the Virtual Console games themselves, it's worth way too much for what you get. I like the Virtual Console, but damn Nintendo, I've told you before, you gotta make this stuff cheaper if you want it to do well, and I think they could have done that with this too. If this was something that was $5 or even $10, I think a lot of people would have bought it, played it for a while, and went, that was interesting, and moved on, but they wouldn't have felt ripped off. And I think rightly or wrongly, a lot of people probably will feel ripped off by this. I don't. As someone who has fond memories of this stuff, I think it's great, but I also think it's a tough pill to swallow for what you get, even though if you really dig into this, there is a lot of fun to be had with it. And I enjoy it. As I said, if you like these older games, I think you'll enjoy it too. And if you've got a Wii U and are a little bit starved for something to play on it, especially something from the eShop, you could do a lot worse than this. But it was a cool experiment, but I think Nintendo's pricing has shot itself in the foot, as they frankly tend to do a lot. So, judge for yourself. Hopefully I've given you a little bit of insight into what's interesting about this. But I think it's pretty cool. And if you're a fan of these old school first-party NES games, I think you'll probably have a lot of fun with it. So yeah, that is NES Remix, published and developed by Nintendo in 2013 for the Wii U. It is on the eShop right now. At time of recording, it is $15. I presume it will probably stay that way for a while. Maybe not the best value proposition in the world, but I've seen a lot of retro fan service in my day, and most of it is not as cool and unique as this is. So, take that as you will. My name has been Parallax Abstraction. Thank you guys all very much for watching, and I will see you next time.